When you walk away, everything changes. She doesn't cry. She doesn't beg. She doesn't react. Not at first. But deep inside, that silence you left behind, it starts to echo. This isn't about playing games. This is about power. The moment you disappear is the moment she begins to feel. She doesn't feel your presence when you're chasing. She feels it when you're gone. And if you don't understand this truth, you'll spend your life chasing people who never respected your presence to begin with. Comment, I choose peace. If you're done begging for attention you never should have needed to ask for. Number 1. What silence does to her mind. The moment you pull away, not with rage, not with bitterness, but with clarity, she begins to realize that your presence was never guaranteed. Now that you're gone, she starts wondering what happened, because she never believed you had the strength to actually leave. She thought you'd always come back, that your loyalty meant forever availability, but she underestimated your self-respect. You understand now that peace isn't found in validation, but in knowing that you don't need to be seen to be valuable. That's when your self-worth becomes unshakable, not because others recognize it, but because you've detached from needing their recognition to feel whole. You walk away with discipline, and she experiences a silence that speaks louder than your presence ever did, not because you disappeared, but because you reclaimed what you used to give away for free. She realizes too late that your kindness wasn't weakness, that your patience wasn't desperation, and that your leaving wasn't a tactic. It was the final truth. You show up every day with patience, care, and focus, and it gets dismissed like background noise, not because you're lacking, but because people normalize what they don't have to earn. You stay loyal, you stay kind, and over time she forgets it took effort for you to remain stable when she tested your peace. You don't react anymore, not because you don't care, but because you've learned that over-explaining your value to someone who isn't listening is self-betrayal. You begin to notice how much space you've filled, how much energy you've poured, and how much patience you've exercised just to keep the connection alive. She tells herself she's okay. She posts to show she's moved on, but when it's quiet and she's alone, that's when she feels the difference between attention and presence. And you, now removed from the game, start focusing on your fitness, your discipline, your goals, not out of revenge, but because you finally realized how much of yourself you were withholding to keep her happy. You understand now that peace isn't found in noise or reaction, but in control of your time, your habits, and your standards. She starts replaying moments, wondering what she missed, and you no longer participate in the story because you've moved into a chapter she's not invited to. You don't hate her, you don't love her, you're indifferent, and that indifference isn't cold. It's evolved, it's calm, it's earned. She may wonder who you're with, what you're doing, if you miss her, but those questions come too late, because when you had her, she couldn't see you. She didn't realize the rare energy you brought, because she was too consumed in thinking she deserved it without responsibility. Every unanswered message becomes a reminder of how little you were valued. Every missed call now echoes louder in her mind than any word you ever said. You no longer seek closure because you realize people understand your value when they're forced to live without it, not when you repeat it. You rebuild your day, structure your time, train your body, read, reflect, stay grounded in your values, not because you're trying to win her back, but because you're building a life that never depended on her to begin with. She notices the change, the lack of reaction, the peace in your face, the discipline in your choices, and that triggers her confusion more than your anger ever did. You are no longer emotionally accessible, not because you turned cold, but because you finally understood that emotional availability is a privilege, not a default. You used to explain yourself, argue your value, but now you simply exit the conversation and focus on living better. You no longer exist in her world. And that absence, that removal of access, creates the space where regret begins. She might say you ghosted, that you went cold. But the truth is, you outgrew the game. And now the silence isn't absence. It's a boundary. She remembers things differently now. Not how things ended, but how you always showed up, how you made her laugh, how you listened when she was low. And she realizes she gave that up because she couldn't appreciate it when it was hers. You apply Stoic principles daily. You focus on what's in your control, your reaction, your time, your energy, and release everything else without resentment. You understand that a person who can't value you in your presence is not entitled to miss you in your absence. And even if she does miss you, even if she reflects and feels, you're not the same person anymore, because walking away wasn't a pause, it was a pivot. You've become someone who doesn't explain decisions, you demonstrate them, and you don't beg to be understood because you're too busy living with clarity. The peace you now feel is the peace she never gave you, because you gave it to yourself. You look in the mirror and see someone you respect again, not someone hoping to be seen. You've stopped giving second chances to people who needed to lose you to understand you, and you've stopped being emotionally available to people who treated your love like an option. You now build your life by design, not by accident, and that structure is what protects you from ever begging for attention again, because you know now people see you more clearly when you leave than when you stay too long. And if that truth shook something inside you, you're ready for the Stoic relationship blueprint. This isn't just a book. It's filled with timeless principles that help you master your emotions, set unbreakable boundaries, and never lose yourself in anyone again. And for the first time, it's available in audiobook format, so you can absorb this life-changing knowledge while walking, jogging, or driving. You'll feel seen, equipped, and finally clear on what needs to change. This blueprint stays with you. Once you have it, it's yours forever. The link's in the comments. Grab it now and change the way you show up for the rest of your life. Number 2. The emotional shift after you walk away. She starts to unravel, not because you hurt her, but because she has to admit that she lost something she didn't think was worth keeping. Meanwhile, you stop checking her status, stop thinking about what she's thinking, and instead you apply pressure to your own life, waking up early, pushing your limits, building a schedule with intention, and this shift becomes permanent because you've tasted what peace without compromise feels like, and you'll never go back to being half seen again. You don't waste time hoping she realizes. You invest time making sure you never again invest so deeply in someone who doesn't reciprocate. Not power over her, but power over yourself, because now your time is yours. Your energy is yours. Your validation is internal. You used to be the emotional crutch, always available, always understanding, and now she has to sit with the emptiness your removal creates. She scrolls through her phone, sees the silence, sees your name without activity, and that's when discomfort replaces comfort, not because she cares deeply, but because the ego hates uncertainty. You walk away, and she feels nothing at first, because your value has been blurred by overexposure, by availability, by presence that was never earned. In the first few days, she feels free, empowered even, telling herself stories of independence, while your absence quietly erodes her illusion of control. You're no longer there to text good morning, to ask how her day went, and it slowly starts to feel less like peace and more like something missing. She begins to notice the difference, not through emotion, but through patterns. How easy it was to lean on your presence, and now she's left with herself. She posts more often now, not to share, but to provoke, to bait a reaction, because your silence creates discomfort she doesn't want to confront. Every notification that isn't from you becomes a reminder, not that she misses you, but that she can't control your attention anymore. She told herself you were always available, that no matter what, you'd return. But your consistent absence now confronts her with a truth she doesn't want to face. You were serious this time. She thought you were bluffing, thought you needed her more, but time proves her wrong, and your detachment forces her to rethink everything. And while she rethinks, you rebuild, you redirect your emotions into strength, control, structure, discipline, and you realize how distracted you once were. Your calendar fills with purpose, your goals become clear, and you feel more stable, not because of her loss, but because of your gain. You realize that your peace never depended on someone who couldn't see you, that your strength wasn't found in being needed, but in being focused. She used to hear from you daily. Now she wonders if you're okay, if you still think of her, and the more you stay silent, the more power shifts. She begins to talk to others, but her mind always loops back to the one person she can't seem to reach. Not because you're trying to punish her, but because you've moved forward without resentment. You keep leveling up, new habits, new focus, new friends who respect your energy, new boundaries that protect it. You apply discipline not just to what you do, but to what you no longer allow. No more explaining, no more fixing what someone else broke. And this shift becomes permanent because you've built momentum, and she becomes a memory you no longer replay, not because you don't care, but because your present is now more valuable than your past. She might reach out, test the waters, send a song, a meme, something harmless. But you no longer take the bait because you're now operating from purpose, not reaction. You're no longer accessible in the ways she remembers. And that change terrifies her, not because you were cruel, but because you were kind, and now you're gone. And the hardest pill for her to swallow is realizing that you became better in her absence while she stayed the same, still seeking control, still mistaking attention for affection. You build your life with intention now. You wake with clarity, move with purpose, rest with discipline, and work with resolve. And that quiet confidence is what makes you unforgettable, not because you seek validation, but because you no longer need it. You've shifted from explaining your worth to embodying it, and that transformation cannot be undone. She doesn't miss the old you. She misses the emotional certainty you gave her, the comfort of knowing someone cared unconditionally. And now that it's gone, she feels the loss not in memory, but in identity. Because when someone constantly validates you, it becomes part of who you believe you are. And when that disappears, so does the illusion. And now she has to rebuild herself in a world where your approval no longer exists. And that is a burden she never expected. Meanwhile, you've realized that control over your time, space, habits, and peace is the only real power you ever needed. You don't return to old conversations, old explanations, or old emotions, because the man she knew was a version of you that no longer exists. You stay grounded, you train, you plan, you connect with people who bring clarity, not confusion, and your life starts to reflect your new standards. She watches quietly, maybe even says nothing, but the energy shift is undeniable because you now operate in truth, not negotiation. She can sense it. You're gone, really gone, and not bitter, not hurt, just clear. And in a world full of noise and ego, that clarity cuts deeper than anger ever could. You've not just walked away, you've elevated, and that's what haunts her most, because you've proven that peace is not found in proving your worth, but in protecting it, and she lost access to something her ego thought was permanent, but your discipline made temporary. Number 3, when she realizes you're really gone. She doesn't reach out because she's brave. She does it because she feels the emotional leverage slipping, and you don't respond because you've replaced reaction with reflection, and that limit was reached the day you decided that silence protects what noise used to destroy. and now she has to live with the version of herself that couldn't see it. She notices you've stopped watching her stories, stopped orbiting her content, and the absence of your attention stings more than any argument ever could. The version of you that begged, waited, forgave, rationalized, that version no longer exists, and she's realizing it too late. You elevate not because of her absence, but because of your presence in your own life, and that elevation is what makes you unforgettable. She reaches out indirectly, tries to spark nostalgia, but you don't bite, because you know that memory is not a reason to return to what drained you. You no longer seek explanations. You live in outcomes, and your new standard is built on boundaries she helped you discover by breaking them. She realizes you're really gone, not when you leave, but when you no longer react, when your silence becomes consistency, not hesitation. She tests the waters, likes an old post, sends a vague message, waits for a response. But you don't answer, not because you're bitter, but because you've finally accepted reality. You don't play the game anymore, and that's when she understands this isn't a cold phase, it's closure without conversation. What used to be her emotional playground, your availability, is now closed off, not to punish, but to preserve yourself. And while she's trying to figure out how to get back into your head, you're not even in the same mental room anymore. You stopped explaining, stopped hoping, stopped building potential in someone who only valued your effort when it was easy to access. She told herself you'd always be there, that you'd never change, that you'd come back like you always did, but you've shifted gears entirely. And while she's wondering how to undo the silence, you're building a version of your life that no longer needs her as the emotional center. She starts checking more often, scrolling deeper, trying to find signs that you still care, but all she finds is distance that feels permanent. You're no longer giving her the satisfaction of knowing you miss her, because you're too focused on not missing yourself again in the process of loving the wrong person. She thought she could leave and return whenever she pleased, but now your detachment has a weight to it, a finality she can't undo with charm or regret, and instead of anger, you give her absence. Instead of a paragraph, you give her peace, and that's what disrupts her. The version of you that refuses to argue is more powerful than the one who begged to be seen. Now, while she looks back and replays every moment, you look ahead and plan every move, not with emotion, but with discipline, structure, and quiet power. You no longer feel guilty for walking away from disrespect. You feel strong for protecting your peace. And as she reflects, you rise, not to prove anything, but because you finally see how much time you wasted needing someone who only showed up when it was convenient. She lost you when she ignored the version of you that was emotionally generous, and now she's haunted not by your messages, but by your silence that confirms you're done. You walk past places where you used to wait on her replies, and now you walk with purpose, with presence, with pride in yourself. She underestimated how strong you'd become once you realized that love without respect is manipulation, and support without reciprocation is self-harm. Her regret isn't about missing you. It's about realizing she had access to someone rare and mistook consistency for weakness. She isn't haunted by what she did. She's haunted by what you became without her. Not bitter, not broken, but better and now unreachable. You used to check in hoping she still cared. Now you check out because you care too much about your future to reopen doors that led to confusion. She starts to understand that your presence wasn't something to take for granted, that your loyalty wasn't ordinary, that your patience wasn't naive. It was love, deep and real, but also limited. She starts to notice the version of you she once ignored now lives in clarity, and that clarity has nothing to do with her. You have new goals, new systems, new routines, and all of them revolve around self-respect and personal discipline, not emotional chaos. She once thought you were predictable. Now she realizes she never really understood the depth of your strength until you stopped entertaining her version of love. The silence is real now, not a tactic, not temporary, and she recognizes that the door is closed, not because you hate her, but because you finally love yourself enough to leave it shut. She experiences memories as echoes, but echoes don't respond. And that's what changes everything for her, not the past, but your complete detachment from it. You don't block her, you don't watch her, you don't need closure, because your healing doesn't involve dragging her back into your process. And that's what she never expected. A version of you that doesn't chase, doesn't linger, doesn't explain, and that version of you is unforgettable. Number 4. What distance teaches her. She scrolls through old conversations and rereads messages she once ignored, now looking for the warmth that no longer replies. She hoped time apart would make you desperate, but it made you wise. And now she has to watch from the outside as you become someone even she would chase. But you're no longer available. She starts experiencing your absence like a missing piece, but not because you were perfect, because you were real and rare and no longer reachable. She discovers quickly that attention from others doesn't feel like yours, that presence and care are not as common as she once believed. You replace anxiety with structure, weakness with discipline, neediness with clarity, and distance gave you the room to do that. While she hoped space would make you chase, it only made you aware, and that awareness is what protects you now. The further you move into your purpose, the clearer it becomes that proximity to her created confusion you finally escaped. You evolve in silence, no announcements, no indirect posts, just growth that speaks through your absence and your focus. She realizes the version of you she dismissed was the same version everyone else now admires from afar, and she can't get back to. You reclaim your time, your energy, your freedom. And that shift in priority changes everything about the way she remembers you. The comfort she once felt when you texted good morning is now a hole she tries to fill with distractions, but nothing sticks. You build new systems, habits, and relationships rooted in respect, and distance allows you to see that the emotional imbalance was never about her. It was about what you tolerated. She no longer gets to interrupt your peace with a message because distance taught you that access to your energy is earned, not assumed. And the most sobering truth she has to live with is that you never had to yell, beg, or explain. You just stopped showing up, and that silence said more than words ever could. While she hoped space would make you chase, it only made you aware, and that awareness is what protects you now. You don't return calls, not out of spite, but because you've learned that conversations with people who never listened are just noise. You stop explaining your growth, and instead, you live it, through your routine, your boundaries, your schedule, your peace. Distance teaches her what comfort distracted her from, that your presence came with reliability, depth, and a peace that couldn't be faked. Now that space has replaced your energy, she realizes she depended on your consistency more than she admitted. You were her constant, her fallback, the one who never wavered, and in your absence, she starts to see how much she leaned on you without ever matching it. While she explores her options and tries to convince herself you were replaceable, reality reminds her that consistency and emotional safety can't be copied overnight. Distance doesn't just create longing, it creates clarity, and that clarity reveals how one-sided the emotional investment really was. Every day you don't return, every post you don't like, every memory you don't chase reminds her that the chapter is over. And it wasn't her choice. You were the safe space she took for granted, the emotional mirror she shattered with indifference, and now the reflection is gone. She tries to compare, but it backfires because the people she meets don't know her soul the way you did. And now she realizes that knowing someone deeply is not something you can fake. She assumed you'd always be available, but distance has erased that illusion and replaced it with an unspoken truth. You're not waiting anymore. Her regret isn't about love, it's about access, about losing the version of you who always showed up even when she didn't. You evolve in silence, choosing not to prove anything, just living with intent, surrounded by purpose, not noise. Distance became your teacher, and the lesson was simple. Love yourself enough to walk away from anything that demands your peace as a sacrifice. You don't ask how she's doing anymore, because the answer doesn't affect your path. She finds your discipline unshakable now, your routine untouchable, your peace uninterested in revisiting what cost you clarity. While she drifts in questions, you build with answers, and distance keeps you focused not on who left, but on what's ahead. What once was a relationship built on routine now reveals itself as one-sided investment you can never afford again. She gets nostalgic, she wonders, but nostalgia is powerless against the life you've now built with full control of your emotional space. She can miss you, admire you, even desire to try again. But your distance has become the wall that protects you from reopening what should have ended sooner. And that's the true power of distance. Not in changing them, but in finally choosing you. Number 5. She starts comparing others to you. You never begged for recognition, but now she finds herself recognizing what she used to downplay, and it hits different because the version of you she overlooked is now unavailable. She notices how others talk but don't show up, how they praise but don't protect, how they want access without investment, and suddenly your silence feels louder than their presence. She remembers the days you made her feel prioritized without asking for it, and now she has to beg for basic attention from people who treat her like an option. You weren't perfect, but you were intentional, and in a world of impulsive love and selfish pursuits, your presence felt grounded, and now your absence feels permanent. She doesn't tell her friends, but they see it. How the light in her eyes dims when your name is mentioned. How her curiosity becomes silence because she no longer has access. She measures new connections against old comfort, but you were never comfort. You were stability, and stability is a choice, not a feeling. She assumed love was about being chosen, but now she sees that being chosen means nothing if the person doesn't have the ability to choose wisely. At first it seems like she's moved on, entertaining new attention, laughing at new jokes, receiving compliments that feed her ego. But slowly, the depth of what you brought begins to contrast against the surface-level validation she now settles for. She doesn't realize it instantly. It creeps in through small disappointments, through unmet expectations, through the lack of emotional safety she thought was easy to replace. She believed the grass was greener, but now she's stuck with artificial energy. Attention that lacks intention, affection that comes with agendas, and connection that dies without effort. The same messages she ignored now feel like gold, and the effort she brushed off now feels like a memory she wants to relive, but can't because you're no longer reachable. You didn't just leave, you evolved, and your evolution makes her rethink what she thought was common, what she thought she could replace. She starts comparing others to you, not because you were flawless, but because what you gave came from consistency, presence, and effort that doesn't show up in everyone she meets. She tries to rationalize why new people don't feel the same, but she knows deep down it's not about the people, it's about what she lost. She once thought your effort was excessive, your check-ins were clingy, your presence too predictable. Now she craves the certainty she once dismissed. She didn't realize what you were building for her until she stood next to someone who only knew how to take, not create. Every new message she receives now comes with a silent measurement against the way you made her feel seen, heard, prioritized. She laughs on dates and pretends she's okay, But in the quiet spaces, she remembers the way your presence used to calm the chaos she now faces alone. You no longer exist in the category of men she can access, not because you blocked her, but because you became the version of yourself that doesn't need to be revisited to be respected. She sees now that you were rare, not because of status, but because of values. And values can't be faked or found overnight. You stopped justifying yourself, and that absence of explanation is what finally shows her the version of you she never gave herself time to understand. She starts to notice the pattern, that every new person she meets offers less of what you gave with ease, and that truth doesn't make her miss you. It makes her feel the weight of what she let go. And while she compares, you continue building a life untouched by her opinion, a life designed by choice, not dictated by reaction. You no longer allow comparison to distract you, because you understand that peace doesn't come from being better than the next man. It comes from being aligned with your highest self. She wanted to feel empowered by your absence, but all it did was expose the weakness of what came after you. Now the bar has risen, not for her benefit, but for your sanity. And she can't reach what she didn't help build. She dated potential in you and walked away when it needed patience. And now she dates distractions, trying to forget what she walked away from. And you, no longer explaining, no longer proving, just existing with peace and principle, become the standard she measures everything against. A standard that reminds her that you were not the problem, you were the lesson. If you felt every word like it was written for you, it's because no one ever told you the truth this raw. Society wants you weak, chasing, lost in confusion, begging for breadcrumbs, because when you wake up, you become untouchable. The Stoic relationship blueprint is not just a book, it's a turning point. It's filled with timeless Stoic principles that'll reset your mind, sharpen your boundaries, and give you the clarity you were never taught to have. And now, it's available in audiobook format, so you can listen while walking, training, or reclaiming your peace. The link's in the comments. Comment, "I choose clarity," if you're done wasting your time. Like this video, subscribe, and help get this message to every man still lost in the lies.